The Shadows of Ravenwood, written by Agatha Christie. Ravenwood, a name whispered in hushed tones. A town shrouded in a perpetual mist, its secrets clinging to its inhabitants like cobwebs. It was a place where darkness thrived, where shadows held their breath, and where the air was thick with unspoken truths. The town was a labyrinth of winding streets and ancient houses, their facades cracked and weathered, their windows like watchful eyes. Beneath the surface of normalcy, a current of unease pulsed, a hidden tension that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to venture into its depths. Ravenwood was home to Detective Sarah Blake, a woman as sharp as the November wind that whipped through the town's desolate alleyways. Her keen eyes had witnessed the underbelly of Ravenwood, the despair and desperation that lurked beneath its veneer of respectability. But even Sarah, hardened by years on the force, could not have anticipated the darkness that was about to consume Ravenwood, a darkness that would test her limits, forcing her to confront her own inner demons as she fought to bring justice to a town teetering on the brink. A detective haunted Sarah Blake. Sarah Blake was a woman forged in the fires of tragedy. The disappearance of her younger sister Lily years ago had left an unfillable void in her life, a constant ache that shadowed her every move. It was this loss that had driven her to become a detective, a relentless pursuit of justice that offered a semblance of order in a chaotic world. Sarah's dedication to her work was unwavering. Her sharp mind, honed by years of unraveling complex cases, was her greatest weapon. She possessed an uncanny ability to read people, to see through their facades and expose the truth that lay beneath. But behind her stoic exterior, Sarah was a woman grappling with her own demons. The pain of Lily's disappearance lingered, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked in the world. It was a darkness she knew all too well, a darkness that threatened to consume her if she let it. Despite the weight of her past, Sarah remained a beacon of hope in a town shrouded in despair. She was the protector of the innocent, the voice for the voiceless, a shield against the encroaching shadows. Whispers in the dark, the murder. The silence of the early morning was shattered by a blood-curdling scream. It echoed through the deserted streets of Ravenwood, a chilling prelude to the horror that was about to unfold. The victim was William Caldwell, a prominent businessman known for his ruthless ambition and shady dealings. His lifeless body was discovered in his opulent mansion, sprawled on the plush carpet of his study, a single gunshot wound marring his temple. The news of Caldwell's murder spread through Ravenwood like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of speculation and fear. The town, already on edge, was now gripped by a collective sense of dread. As Sarah arrived at the crime scene, the weight of the town's anxiety settled on her shoulders. The air was thick with the scent of death and the faint aroma of lilies, a chilling reminder of her own personal tragedy. The murder bore all the hallmarks of a professional hit, clean and calculated. But something about the scene felt off, a discordant note in the symphony of death. It was a subtle clue, easily overlooked, but for Sarah, it was a beacon, a tiny spark of intuition that whispered of a deeper conspiracy. The enigma unfolds, a trail of clues. The investigation into Caldwell's murder was like navigating a labyrinth blindfolded. Every clue Sarah uncovered seemed to lead to a dead end, every witness offering a different version of the truth. The evidence pointed in multiple directions, each more confusing than the last. There was the disgruntled business partner with a motive as old as time revenge, the scorned mistress seeking retribution for a love betrayed. And then there was the mysterious stranger who had been seen lurking around Caldwell's mansion in the days leading up to the murder. Sarah meticulously pieced together the fragments of information, her mind working like a well-oiled machine. She interrogated witnesses, their words painting a picture of Caldwell as a man who had made many enemies, a man who had lived by the sword and died by it. As Sarah delved deeper into Caldwell's life, she uncovered a web of deceit, greed, and corruption that extended far beyond the confines of his mansion. It seemed that everyone in Ravenwood had a secret, and everyone was a suspect. The investigation was a race against time, a desperate search for answers before the killer could strike again. And Sarah, haunted by the ghosts of her past and the weight of a town's expectations, was determined to bring the killer to justice, no matter the cost. False leads and dead ends, a labyrinth of deception. Days turned into sleepless nights as Sarah and her partner, the gruff but dependable Detective Ben Carter, tirelessly pursued every lead. Each one seemed promising at first, only to crumble into dust, leaving them back where they started. The business partner, it turned out, had an alibi, his whereabouts corroborated by numerous witnesses. The scorned mistress, consumed by grief, seemed genuinely heartbroken, her alibi, while shaky, checked out. The mysterious stranger remained an enigma, a phantom glimpsed in the shadows but never fully revealed. His existence was more rumor than fact, a whisper in the wind that Sarah couldn't quite grasp. The deeper Sarah dug, the more she realized that she was dealing with a master manipulator, someone who had meticulously planned every detail, leaving no trace, no fingerprints, no witnesses. The killer was like a ghost, moving unseen, striking with deadly precision. Frustration gnawed at Sarah's resolve. The lack of progress, the dead ends, the feeling of being constantly one step behind, it all chipped away at her confidence. The case was becoming an obsession, consuming her thoughts, her dreams, her life. The clock ticks, racing against time. As the days stretched into a week, the pressure on Sarah intensified. The media was having a field day, the lack of progress in the Caldwell case fueling a frenzy of speculation and criticism. The townspeople, their initial shock giving way to fear and impatience, demanded answers. Sarah, however, refused to be swayed by public pressure. She knew that rushing the investigation would only increase the chances of making a mistake that could cost someone their life. She doubled down, scrutinizing every detail, every word, every gesture. She re-interviewed witnesses, hoping to catch a flicker of deception, a slip of the tongue that could unlock the case. Then, a breakthrough. A seemingly insignificant detail, overlooked in the initial chaos of the investigation, surfaced. A faint scent of lilies at the crime scene, the same scent Sarah remembered from her sister's disappearance. Could there be a connection? Was she chasing a ghost from her past? Or was this a cruel coincidence? A phantom scent conjured by her own troubled mind. Confrontation at the warehouse. A deadly game. The trail of lilies led Sarah and Ben to a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of Ravenwood. The building loomed over them, a skeletal silhouette against the twilight sky, its windows like vacant eyes staring out into the gathering darkness. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dust and decay, the only sound the scuttling of rats in the walls. It felt like a place where secrets went to die, a tomb sealed off from the outside world. As they cautiously made their way through the labyrinthine corridors, the silence was shattered by a blood-curdling scream. It was followed by a chilling laughter, echoing through the vast emptiness of the warehouse. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a scene that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. A figure, shrouded in shadows, stood over a bound and gagged woman. The woman was alive, her eyes wide with terror, her muffled sobs echoing in the cavernous space. "You're too late, Detective Blake," the figure hissed, his voice a menacing whisper. "The game is already over." Betrayals sting. The tables turn. The figure stepped into the light, and Sarah felt a cold dread grip her heart. It was Kane, her former mentor, a man she had trusted implicitly. a man who had taught her everything she knew about being a detective. "Victor, why?" Sarah choked out, her voice barely a whisper. Kane's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Why, Sarah, don't you see? It was all part of the plan. You were always so predictable, so eager to please. I knew you'd follow the trail of lilies just like your sister did." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Lily? What does she have to do with this?" "Oh, but Sarah, you were always the smart one," Kane sneered. "Don't you recognize the game? The same game we played all those years ago. The game that cost your dear sister her life." Sarah's mind reeled. The pieces of the puzzle were finally falling into place, revealing a horrifying truth. Kane had been playing her all along, using her past, her pain to manipulate her, to lead her right into his trap. Unraveling the truth. A shocking revelation. A wave of nausea washed over Sarah as the horrifying truth sunk in. Kane had been responsible for Lily's disappearance all those years ago. He had orchestrated everything, the clues, the red herrings, the dead ends, leading her on a wild goose chase while he silenced anyone who threatened to expose his secrets. And now he was doing it again, using the same game, the same tactics to frame her for Caldwell's murder. The lilies, the scent that had haunted her for years. It was all part of his twisted game. "You see, Sarah," Kane continued, his voice laced with a chilling amusement. Caldwell was getting too close. He was about to expose my little operation, so I had to silence him. And who better to take the fall than the detective obsessed with a cold case? Sarah's anger flared, hot and fierce. She had been played, manipulated, used, but she refused to be his pawn any longer. She would bring him down, expose him for the monster he truly was, even if it was the last thing she did. Justice hangs in the balance, the cliffhanger. As Sarah and Kane faced off, the tension in the warehouse was palpable. The air crackled with anticipation, the silence broken only by the sound of their ragged breaths. Sarah knew she was outmatched. Kane was armed and dangerous, a predator who had been hunting for years. But she refused to back down. She had come too far, uncovered too much to let him get away with it. Just as Kane raised his gun, aiming it at the terrified woman, a shot rang out. The sound echoed through the warehouse, deafening in its finality. Sarah watched in horror as Kane stumbled back, a look of disbelief etched on his face. He clutched at his chest, blood blooming through his shirt, staining it a macabre crimson. Then slowly, he crumpled to the ground, his eyes staring vacantly at the warehouse ceiling. Silence descended upon the warehouse, heavy and absolute. Sarah stood frozen, her mind struggling to process the scene unfolding before her eyes. Who fired the shot? Join the investigation. What happens next? The warehouse stands silent, a tomb for secrets and a stage for a shocking turn of events. Victor Kane, the puppet master, lies defeated, but the hand that orchestrated his demise remains shrouded in shadow. Was it a desperate act of self-defense from the captive woman? Or did another player lurk in the shadows of this deadly game? A silent guardian waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The answers remain elusive, hidden in the depths of Ravenwood's intricate web of deceit. Detective Sarah Blake, though free from Kane's manipulations, finds herself at a new crossroads, facing a mystery more profound than she could have imagined. What are your thoughts? Who pulled the trigger, ending Kane's reign of terror? What fate awaits the captive woman, and what secrets does she hold? Will Sarah finally find justice for her sister and unravel the web of lies that has entangled Ravenwood for so long? Share your theories, your insights, and join the investigation. The truth, as always, remains out there, waiting to be unearthed.